speak to Raiman al-Hamdani, who's a Yemeni analyst and researcher at ARK Group. That's an international company promoting stability in the world's most vulnerable region, joining us from London. Thanks for your time. So we now know so far that 3 people have been killed as a result of this attack. And we also know that the head of the World Health Organization was at the airport in Sanaa preparing to leave the country when this attack took place. Just give me your sort of initial reading into this development.
Well, I think it's a quite serious development, quite significant as well. I mean, this has to be probably the first strike that civilians were seen to die on camera, particularly, for instance, in Sanaa airport, where the departure hall was also destroyed. And so we are looking at the Houthis basically doubling down and playing with fire to try and escalate the situation with Israel. And I think the country, Yemen, does not have the capacity or the capability to deal with another crisis and another sort of strong actor that's intervening in their domestic affairs. I think there's been a lot of caution, obviously, to not attack the Houthis too much. For instance, the Americans, the Israelis, the Brits, because they realize that there is a peace process that's taking place between the Houthis, the Saudis, and the Yemeni internationally recognized government. Although at any minute, I believe that any miscalculation can obviously derail at any moment. And I think there's no going back from what we've seen today, because the Houthis are quite determined to continue striking Israel, even though the damage remains extremely minimal. And so,
right. I mean, the Houthis do say that they are striking Israel as in solidarity, of course, with the Palestinians in Gaza. But is Israel turning its attention now to Yemen as a key battleground in its struggle against what Tel Aviv claims as Iranian influence?
Well, I think Israel is on the ascendant now after its victories against Hezbollah, for instance. Its the ability to basically push Iran out of Syria, and so now they feel very empowered and enabled to attack Yemen. I think the Israelis have also been very clear about that they want to launch a large operation in Yemen, even though this also may seem like a battle of words, perhaps. But as I said, any miscalculation will probably devastate Yemen, and the country cannot handle that.
How much support or military coordination would there be between Israel as well and its allies, other countries? And if so, who are they? I mean, surely Israel is hampered by logistical as well as geographical obstacles when it comes to Yemen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there have been comments within the Israeli Knesset about basically armed groups that exist in Yemen to fight the Houthis and also financing them. Obviously, this might be far-fetched, but those would be the people that make the most sense to fight the Houthis. If they are given the right weaponry and they're being financed correctly and trained, then that would be probably a good tactic if they also couple it with airstrikes. But at the same time, I think the international community is not willing to let Yemen fall into more disarray, particularly the humanitarian situation, but also its implications to the region and countries like in the GCC. And so the other people that are involved with Israel attacking Yemen are the Americans and the Brits, but they do attack at different times. But the narrative inside Yemen, and propagated by the Houthis as well, is that the Americans, the Israelis, the Emiratis, and the Brits are all working together to take them out, and they are the liberators of Gaza and Palestine.
Since October the 7th, Yemen has launched over 200 rockets and about 170 drones at Israeli targets, according to some statistics. I mean, how unprecedented is this? And what do you think will happen next? Is this a major escalation?
Yeah, this is a major escalation. I think the leadership of the Houthis is quite genuinely and ideologically passionate, I believe, about the Palestinian cause. And so they are also warriors. They've only grown up and lived and only trained for war and constantly only seen war. So that's basically with the Houthi leadership and the elite of the group. And so they don't really, I believe, I don't think they really care what happens to the Yemeni population as long as there's an Islamist fight that is being fought abroad. And if they are actually going to manage to deter Israel, because that is seen as a very common enemy amongst the Muslim world. But at the same time, I think also it could be a big bluff. We've seen the Houthis put more pressure on the internationally recognized government and the southern population and southern armed groups that exist there as well along the front lines. We've heard reports yesterday that the Saudis and the Houthis have clashed along the border, and this has been a development as well that's quite significant, considering that there's been an informal truce ongoing for some time now. And so, as I said, the Houthis are also, I believe, are also being cornered at the negotiating table, and at the same time as well by these new developments, the ports attack, the airport bombing that we've been talking about.
Right.
And so the Houthis they're using the pressure that they feel to dissuade the battle elsewhere, so they don't have to really, engage so much with the negotiating table if it's making them weaker or if they're not having their way.
We'll leave it there. Raiman al-Hamdani, Yemeni analyst, speaking to us from London. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.